Now tell me what you hate about Americans.
We hate it. We absolutely hate it that you guys take the freedom to rename stuff.
Yeah.
Like Copenhagen. What is that?
What's it actually called? I only know it as Copenhagen.
Schopenhauer.
Okay. So why do we call it Copenhagen? Just because we're Americans?
You rename every country and every city.
Yeah. It's like we're just calling everything Smith.
Smith.
Yeah.
No, you just rename everything. It's like, I don't know what's up with that. Copenhagen. Let's just call it Copenhagen instead of Schopenhauer.
Yeah.
What if we would be like, let's call it Coco Panda instead of Chicago?
Israel Adesanya will now be known as Israel Smith. Jan Blachowicz will now be Jan Blake.
Yeah, Chandler.
Yes.
Volkan Chandler.
Yeah.
No, that's just stupid. We hate that. Stop doing that.
Yeah, it's all we know how to do.
Just like, you can, just learn how to pronounce things instead of renaming them. Just a tip from me, because we can't do that to you guys. You can be like, we're going to Chips. We're going to Chips instead of Chicago or New York. Just call it something else.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
What if we? It wouldn't be easy for us to talk.
Okay.
I would just be saying whatever, talking my own language, which we have actually touched on a few times.
Mm-hmm.
This Monday, I was thinking about firing you.
That's true, because I don't speak a word of Swedish and I'm terrible pronouncing the R's. And in fact, it's not even Swedish. How do you say Swedish correctly?
Yeah, because it's not Sweden,
Yeah, it's not Sweden. What is it?
No, Sverige.
Oh shit. Yeah.
I don't live in Sweden. I live in Sverige. So where do you live? Ah, okay. The US is the same.
Yeah.
We haven't renamed it.
So you should rename it though. I think that we deserve to be renamed since we rename everything.
That.
Yeah.
Imagine. No, Swedish. Yeah, it's called Sverige, And Denmark is actually called Denmark, but it's kind of similar.
How do you spell that?
What? Our country?
Your country.
Sverige.
Sverg.
No. Sverige.
In German, like
it's like an epiphany for you now. You're like, wow.
It is an epiphany. Well, okay, so I took a little bit of German, so I know Germany is not Germany, right? It's Deutschland. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you get that to Germany?
I have no idea. It's baffling. Like it's just
let's call it Germany.
Yeah, let's call it Smith.
It's kind of stupid, right?
You are all global immigrants into the Americanized English language, and so we will call you whatever we want to call you. I mean, how insulting, really. It's ridiculous.
It is
ridiculous.
It's like, let's go to Copenhagen this weekend. Yeah. Or let's just go to Schopenhauer.
Not a thing.
No, but there's like a million examples, but that was the first one I could just come up with.
Well, tips on how to not be an American asshole aside, we also have to talk about UFC 259. Today is episode 8. Can't believe it's been 8 already.
Mm-hmm. And it is actually the real episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just saying that just to make friends.
It's true. It is the real episode 8. I know 8 is everybody's favorite, and today you're going to get it. And we have a very special interview on today's episode because we got to chat a little bit with Anthony Smith and had a lot of fun, got his thoughts on UFC 259, and we agreed with him on the main events. It was a little underwhelming, but first I want to talk about the best part of this card, I think, was the prelims. The prelims were sensational. And I think we should talk about your favorite, the fighter you meant to mention last episode.
Oof, yes.
Tell us about your boy.
God, this is just, it's embarrassing, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been talking about him or hyping him up to you since when? August?
Since the beginning.
Yeah.
So how do you pronounce his name? Uros Medic?
Uros
Euros. Euros?
Euros.
You're like Euros.
No,
No.
Uros.
Ur.
Yes.
Uros?
Oh, then there you had the R too.
Uros.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. Uros Medic.
He can be taught.
He was on a Dana White Contender series. He stood out. He was the only one to stand out that much, I think.
Yeah.
So I wrote you. I remember. Yeah. Do you remember? I wrote you all hyped up and was like, "Oh God, you have to check this guy out." And I've been waiting since I think it was August when he was on. Been waiting for him to make his debut, and he sure did.
Absolutely steamrolled Cruz. Not Dominic the Dominator Cruz, but Elan Cruz. Just plowed right through him and finished him in a minute 40. That was
48
insane.
Strikes to none, I think it was.
Ooh, yeah, terrifying. So another terrifying lightweight, and it'd be fascinating to see when he fights some better competition. But
he will. He got the performance of the night also.
Yeah, and it was funny too. Like all these fighters on the early prelims were just like kids at Christmas when they talked to Joe Rogan. They're like, "Oh, Joe Rogan, I've been waiting to talk to you my whole life. I don't even care that I won this fight. I just care that I'm talking to you right now."
Yeah.
I'm just like, come on, man, act like you've been there. I mean, you haven't been there. Also, I'm not any better. So,
act as cool as I was when I was talking to Anthony Smith.
Yeah, no, I was like a kid when I was talking to Anthony Smith. So
try be like me.
I'm
Swedish.
We'll try to get on your level and have a little bit more coolness and maturity.
Yeah, right. I'm being ironic or sarcastic or whatever you call it.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want because
that's I can just make shit up.
Yeah,
if I don't know, I'm gonna do that from now on.
Yeah, and then
make up my own words.
We felt like the fight of the night, which maybe it was the fight of the night, was you told me I was going to forget how to say it, and I did. It was Carlos Olberg, who is a teammate of Israel Adesanya in New Zealand, was fighting Kennedy Nzechukwu.
Yes.
I think I actually did okay with that.
Correct.
And at the start of this fight, you talk about like Israel Adesanya talking about how good Olberg is and how technical he is because he comes from that same camp. And then Kennedy Nzechukwu grew up in Africa. And I apologize, I can't remember the country right now that he grew up in, but talked about him immigrating to the U.S. And then his mom now has been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. And so very sad story. It's just like, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, Kennedy's got to win, man. He needs the money for his mom, you know? Yeah. And Olberg, for how long do you think, like the first 3 minutes of the fight, like Nzechukwu like didn't even throw a punch and Olberg was just teeing off on him, just head kicks, like the nastiest 4-punch combination of the body I've maybe ever seen. And Kennedy just took all of it and didn't waver. It was insane. It was like he was made out of stone.
Yeah, they went at it for sure. I don't know that I thought that Olberg looked very technical though. Well, I mean, maybe it was the jitters for the, what do you call it? Vad fan heter det? The debut jitters.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, he wasn't efficient with his energy, right? Like he was throwing every punch, every kick 100%. Yeah. And I think it was kind of hard to tell that he was throwing them all 100% because Kennedy just ate everything and it didn't seem to bother him. Although as I was watching it, I was like, you know, I wanted Kennedy to win because here we heard this sad story about him. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like Olberg's just like slaughtering him right now. And
you could see that I was kind of frantic though. You could see that it wasn't going to last.
Right. But I thought he would finish him. Like it seemed like what he was throwing, like most people would have crumbled. And Kennedy just ate it. And then he started throwing back. And then it was just wild. Like it was just two guys teeing off, like no head movement. Like just like
fuck the head movement.
Rock'em sock'em robots until
it was great.
Yeah. Kennedy finally caught Olberg on the chin and put him down. But that was one of the best, like 1.5 rounds of fighting I've seen in a long time. Just for action.
Certainly stood out on that card.
Yeah, absolutely. So all the early prelims I thought were great. I think it's worth mentioning Amanda Lemos in the women's strawweight division looked really great. Was fighting Livia Souza, who is 14-3 and has a great background and just had a very dominant win over her. So she'll be an interesting one to watch. Sean Brady, who is a teammate of Paul the Irish Dragon Felder, also looked great. So a lot of people to watch, I think, from those early prelims. So it was a fun one. And then the regular prelims, I think I want to say what we expected, but you picked Casey Kennedy to beat Dominic Cruz, and that didn't happen. So not exactly what we expected.
It wasn't my luck of the night, though.
It wasn't your luck of the night. It was a split decision. Yes. But the Dominator didn't dominate.
the Dominator.
He didn't dominate, but he won. He won.
Yeah, he won. Did he look great, you think?
He looked solid. I don't know. How did you think he looked?
I don't know. He looked a bit outdated. Maybe a bit outdated. But yeah, solid. I think you picked a good word there. It looked solid.
It's hard. He's not an old guy, but he's been around for a long time. And Casey Kennedy's knock on him was he was saying that he didn't feel like Cruz has evolved very much. And maybe not, but he got it done. So
he got it done.
Yeah.
Would you have argued if Kenny would have won the decision?
I don't think so, but I don't know. Did you feel like Kenny could have won it?
No, yeah, maybe. I don't know if I would have gone out on the streets with signs and stuff. What do you call that? Demonstrating.
Going out on a limb, or demonstrating. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have. But no, I think the Dominator won too.
Yeah. Well, it was disappointing to me that Song, the Kung Fu Monkey Yadong, lost because he's the Kung Fu Monkey. He should always win just because of his nickname.
Yeah.
And Askar Askarov, the Dagestani, who's apparently mostly deaf, so he can't hear the corners very well, but he had a very dominant performance against flyweight standout Joseph Benavidez. So
how about Askar Askarov? That
was a signature win for him.
How great.
Yeah. And what I didn't realize, what I learned during the fight was he's 13-0. And then he's got one draw against Brandon Moreno, who fought to a draw against Devinson Figueiredo for the title last year. So, that just shows, I think, between that and this fight that Askar Askarov is a serious title contender. So
yeah, and he does it all by himself because he can hear his corner. Well. They said on the broadcast they were that they told him that he can hardly hear his corner. So
yeah, and then I think the second place fight of the night was Kai Kara France versus Rogerio Bontorin.
Yes,
because that was just Bontorin was dominating Kai Kara France on the ground for the first 4.5 minutes of the first rounds. Yeah. And then when they finally got up, Kai Kara France lived up to his nickname, which is Don't Blink. And he caught Bontorin with a hook and an uppercut and another hook, and then it was game over. But then
he landed on his head too, I think, or forehead.
Yeah.
Didn't he? He landed on his forehead, and then it was a weird moment also because then he turned his back, and then the ref waved it off, right? And then he returned to do, I don't know what.
It was confusing.
I don't know what he was doing.
It was confusing because Herb Dean was a little ways away from the fighters. And so once Bontorin went down, he ran in, but Kai Kara France did kind of a walk-off. As soon as Bontorin dropped, he turned around and ran away, and so kind of ran into Herb Dean. And did he wave it off? I'm not sure if it was really confusing at the time.
He did, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what Kai saw, how much Kai saw of him waving it off.
Yeah,
so it was weird. And then he took his mouthpiece out and threw it at him.
Yeah, it was really funny because Kai Kara France kind of called his own shot. He just walked off. He's like, "Fight's over," and then literally just sprinted a circle around the octagon. And when he came back towards Bontorin on the ground and Herb Dean standing over him, he pulled his fist back like he was going to punch him again on the ground. And that's when Herb Dean stepped in and pushed him away. And it's just okay, the fight's Herb Dean stepping in, the fight's over. But was so bizarre,
Yeah.
but really fun too. That was
He
ridiculous.
was so happy though.
Yeah.
Car France. He was super duper happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one also. So
That was
main
a great
card.
fight. Yeah, main card was a little as underwhelming as the prelims were over delivering and really exciting. Because Thiago Santos, Alexander Rakic was just feints.
Shit.
Yeah. Or shit. Yeah. We just not a lot of action. I mean, two guys who were power punchers and they just didn't do a damn thing. So
Feints.
They didn't, neither of them really wanted to win. Like they were just sort of like, they both expected that they could just kind of half-ass it and get the decision. Like they were both standing there with the ref at the end of the fight with their hands up. And it's like, do you really feel like you did enough to win? Like, how can you really tell me that you're confident that you won that fight?
And the weirdest thing was that Alexander Rakic he has like legs like tree trunks, right? Or bigger than tree trunks. And the leg was like his lead leg was right there the whole time for Santos to kick. And he didn't. And I was like, but kick the leg. It was like literally right there for him the whole time. And he didn't.
Yeah.
And Rakic, he was just fainting. The whole, I mean, oh my God, feints are not punches.
Yeah.
How?
And Rakic sometimes fights that way. But Santos, still looked tentative. Like he looked tentative in the Glover Teixeira fight. He looked tentative in this one. So we're still waiting to see the guy who fought John Jones, who just went out and laid it all on the line. So hopefully that guy comes back again. Yeah. And then the fight that I hated this matchup, Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober, because I wanted to see Islam fight in the top 10. Instead, we got to see him dominate Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a great fighter, but Islam is, should be fighting top 5 right now. And I was glad to hear after the fight that he was, called out wanting to fight someone in the top 5, because that's who he should be fighting. So, and he specifically mentioned Tony Ferguson. How did you feel about that call out?
I mean, I can't help but being a little excited about that, I think.
Yeah.
I know you love Tony Ferguson. So do I. Yeah. But it is actually a great matchup.
Yeah.
I think, all love aside.
Yeah. I don't want to see it. I think, I think I said last week, I'd love to see Tony Ferguson take a step down in competition right now and, try and get a bit of a winning streak going again. He doesn't need to be fighting killers like Islam right now. And I don't really like the whole, I don't know, Khabib and Islam's little clique where they're like, oh, because this fight never happened with Khabib. Like Islam's like, I have to go punish Ferguson or something. Like, come on, man. That's just that's petty. It's like petty tribal stuff. Like, who cares? And, maybe he was joking, but still.
He could match him up with RDA, I think, one more time. He was supposed to fight RDA, but didn't happen.
Who, Tony and RDA?
No, Islam.
Islam and RDA? I could see that because RDA's gotten a lot more wrestling heavy lately too, so that'd be kind of interesting.
No, but I kind of love RDA. So let's match him up with someone we hate.
Yes.
That's better.
Who do we hate?
Oh my God, who do we not hate?
That's true. We
don't hate anyone, but someone we like less. For example, has to be in the top 10.
But this is also like our favorite division, so that's tough. It's like
Michael Chandler, maybe.
Yeah, I could actually. That would be great. That would be great because Chandler's been calling out Khabib for a long time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So you can have Khabib's protege, you can have Islam. I don't really want to see him. I would also. Charles Oliveira would be another great matchup.
Nay.
No?
That's a shitty matchup.
Why is that a shitty matchup?
No. Charles Oliveira should fight for the title next, I think.
Should he though?
He should though.
I kind of sympathize with Justin Gagey, who is like, this guy hasn't really fought anybody. Like he's got a great record lately.
Yeah, but fighting Islam though?
I mean,
Michael Chandler can fight Islam Makhachev. I mean, I saw Michael Chandler today on Instagram riding around in a little toy car, sipping Louisiana hot sauce. Did you see that?
I did not.
It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. He was riding around in those little kids' electric toy cars on the street. The car was like the size of his foot. No, but you know what. And then he held a bottle of Dustin Poirier's Louisiana hot sauce, and he was sipping it like a bottle, like a, what do you call it?
Yeah,
the thing that babies
like a kid's juice
from.
Box or a
bottle,
like a baby bottle.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was sipping it like that, like
yeah,
sitting in that little toy car on a street. It was so corniest thing I've seen today. Just feed him the Islam Makhachev.
Okay, I'd love to see it. I really would. They're both really good wrestlers. So
that's settled.
Okay, good.
We can play matchmaker.
Yep, book it. And what's next? What's our next fight on the docket here?
Oh, well. I don't know.
Controversy: Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is primarily when we talked about UFC 259 with Anthony Smith. This is primarily what we talked about because he had a similar situation in his title fight against John Jones to what ended this fight between Aljo and Peter Yan. That being an illegal knee to the head. John Jones threw an illegal strike to the head in that fight. However, Anthony Smith continued, and he had a lot to say, particularly about referees and about this fight in particular. So here is that clip.
You know, the title changing hands off of a disqualification is kind of crazy. I think the whole situation's a disaster. I'm really upset and disappointed with the Athletic Commission that they've really messed up this whole entire thing, and it just really frustrates me.
What can you elaborate on that a little bit? What did they mess up?
Like, number one, it should never be in the fighter's hands. It should never be in the fighter's hands. So the referees never want to interfere in the outcome of a fight, not because they actually care about us. It's because they don't have the balls to take the heat. They can't take the criticism. They can't take the anger from fans. But at the end of the day, if you're not there to protect the fighters and be a fiduciary for safety, then what are you there for? Like, why did Mark Smith walk back and forth 5 or 6 different times over a period of 3.5 minutes asking him if he wanted to continue? Think about this. I'm going to say this out loud, and you tell me how crazy this sounds. There's a referee who's essentially an official. His job is to make sure that everybody's following the rules and to control the flow of the fight and then stop it if there's any fouls. So I'm going to get fouled, like critically fouled, by an opponent. And you're there as the official, and your job is to come ask me if I want to continue. I'm not the one who broke the rules. Why are you talking to me about this? Like, in no other sport imagine in American football, if the referees started asking the quarterbacks after they were roughed if they wanted to continue, or like, what do you want me to do here, Tom Brady? What do you think we should do with this one? No, you need to make a call. It's black or white. It's not up to Aljo. Now, whether you want to pretend, whether you want to say Aljo was faking, he was not faking. Like, I'm not even going to comment on it because no matter what, it's going to make me sound like I'm trashing Aljo, and I don't want to do that. I don't think it matters because he was hit with a hard shot. You also got to remember that these referees are trained to see when fighters are hurt because their job is to see that when they can't continue and defend themselves anymore, they stop the fight. Why does the legality of that situation matter? It shouldn't change if it was an illegal shot or a legal shot, because if his knee was up and he got hit with that knee, like if he wasn't a downed opponent and he got hit with that same knee, Mark Smith would have stepped in and stopped that fight if it was a legal shot. Why is that different? Because it's illegal. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So like, and that's the thing that drives me crazy. Like, you would have stopped that fight if that was a legal blow. But because it's illegal, you're going to give him an opportunity to continue? No, stop the fight, DQ the fighter. Lastly, I'm going off on a tangent here. It pisses me off so bad. But if your job is to, like, they're saying, this is what they're saying. This is their position. This is their actual job description. You're supposed to know this sport and be so educated in this sport that you can look at a fighter and tell when he's done and when he can't compete anymore and when he's not the same and can't defend himself the way he could before whatever fight ending sequence happened. And we're trusting you to step in and stop this fight. And we're not supposed to say anything about it because you're the professional. But if there's an illegal blow, you're too afraid of taking the heat, and now all of a sudden you don't know that. Like Mark Smith and the doctor cage side, here's what they should be doing. They should be knowing how what are Aljo's mannerisms? What does he look like when he's fresh? What does he look like when he's tired? What does he look like when he's hurt? I know what Aljo looks like when he's hurt, and I've never reffed one of his fights. So if I know that, then Mark Smith should damn well know that. So that you should be able to look a fighter in the eyes and see if they're there. I can, and if he can't, he needs a new job, and we need to get him out of there. It's so frustrating that the referees are always trying to pass the buck off to somebody else. So instead of looking at Aljo laying there on his back, clearly rocked initially. I don't know how bad it was or how fast he cleared it, but initially he was definitely hurt. It was a hard knee. And then he's going to look at him laying flat on his back and then panic and call the doctor in. Like, you know what you're doing. You don't need a doctor to tell you he's hurt. You don't need a doctor to tell you this fight shouldn't continue anymore. And if you do, you need to go ref some low-level amateur fights until you're good enough to figure that out.
Yeah. And they asked all kinds of questions too, right? They were like, can you see straight? They asked him all kinds of crazy questions. And sometime there we were just like, what's happening? Because the time just dragged on and nobody knew. And the doctor came in and it was just weird.
I'm fairly confident if you had like Keith Peterson in there or you had Jason Herzog, like, we're not even having this conversation, right? Because he's going to take the illegal knee and he's going to look at him. He's going to stop it right away because he's going to see right away that he's hurt. And it's so frustrating. And that's what it is. It's these referees don't have the balls to just make a decision and stick with it because they don't want to log into Twitter and see all these fans trashing them. Like, that's not your job. Your job is to protect the fighter, and you took too long to do it.
I agree 1,000%. I think it just looks like cowardice when you're watching it. And that ref is Mark Smith, right?
Mark Smith, yeah.
Particularly bad. Like every fight he ref that evening was not good.
Yeah, you had a late stoppage earlier in the night too.
Exactly. Very late.
I've never wanted him to ref my fights, but for different reasons. He talks too much, and I don't need a referee in there trying to draw attention to himself. Like, do your stupid little heart hand thing when Bruce Buffer says who's reffing the fight, right? And then I don't want to hear from you again. Yeah. Like I want to fight. If there's a foul or I've broken the rules or my opponent's broken the rules, please step in and fix it. But if not, leave me alone. Let me fight.
That's the thing. As the ref, as someone who's there to protect the fighter and enforce the rules, like when there's a penalty, whether they're going to take a point or potentially disqualify someone, it's like they should be able to make that assessment based on the rules, without going over the fighter and being like, well, how hurt are you? That's not the issue here.
That's not the issue.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's like, and then you're asking someone who's potentially concussed, who doesn't know where
you want to keep fighting?
Do you want to keep fighting?
Thursday. It's like, wait, I didn't even ask what day it is.
It's like, no, you're there to protect them. Like, you shouldn't be asking them that question.
Right.
So
100%.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I think we've seen it in different ways in a lot of fights. Maybe it wasn't always like a disqualifying thing, but we've seen refs like not being willing to step in and, like you said, take the heat.
Yeah, take the heat. That's your job. Your job is to take the heat.
Yeah, and that's shouldn't be a big deal. It's like, if you can't handle that on Twitter, like, don't be on Twitter. Why do you have to be on Twitter?
Right.
Keith Peterson is not on anywhere, right?
I don't think so. Marguerite and I love talking about Keith Peterson.
I think he's a phenomenal ref.
Yeah. We're very happy to hear that because he's John Anik always calls him the no nonsense Keith Peterson. So we're glad to hear that you feel the same.
Man. Yeah, he's a great
we always shit on everyone who shits on Keith Peterson. We're like, nope, he doesn't like Keith Peterson. We hate him.
Yeah, we're not with that guy.
We always defend him.
You know what? And Dominic Cruz wouldn't come on here either. So we'll just keep shitting on that asshole.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so, with all that said about the referees, how did you feel about how this fight ended, Marguerite?
Well, I mean, it was an obvious illegal strike to the head, right? It wasn't. We don't have anything to say about that.
Right.
But I think, what about the aftermath? Did you see the whole thing playing out?
You mean the aftermath of the fight or since the fight?
Yeah, I mean, he threw the belt on the floor.
Right.
Sterling did.
Yep.
Like, I don't want this belt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then he agreed to get interviewed,
mm-hmm.
and was seemingly all right, I think. But kind of said like, nah, I don't want to win this way, and blah blah blah. And then like 1 hour later, celebrating, doing shots with and posing with Henry Cejudo, celebrating on social media. I don't know why was Henry Cejudo there? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah, that's really bizarre. Doing shots, celebrating with the belt and everything, and posing with Cejudo. And why Cejudo? I mean, why don't you want that immediate rematch with Peter Yan?
Did he say he doesn't want the immediate rematch with Peter Yan?
No, but that was kind of the meaning of the posing with Cejudo. Like,
do you think Cejudo's coming back?
Yeah, he said that was the.
Yeah, no, he did. I did see he saw that out.
I was
said
like,
that at one outlet.
now I'm gonna face this guy, and then posing with Cejudo, and everyone was like, oh, okay.
I mean,
so you're celebrating now?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Cejudo come back, and I'd love to see him fight Aljo or Yan or any of these top guys. But it just seems like, Yan was winning that fight. I think everybody probably feels like the rematch needs to happen. It was unfortunate what happened, but I think certainly some of it seemed like you put down to a miscommunication. Certainly, I mean, Yan is generally a very smart fighter. It just seemed.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. Weird, I think.
Yeah.
Very weird to me. And I think it also showed, except from the illegal knee, that Yan is a great fighter. Because he executed that game plan perfectly.
He's unbelievable. And I think he's a puzzle that nobody's really solved yet, because, I mean, we talked a little bit about Aljo's strategy off air. And I think, it was clear from what Ray Longo was saying in the corner that the goal was to just swarm Peter Yan with so much pressure that he wasn't able to be offensively effective. And that worked okay for Aljo for the first 2 rounds, but he wasn't efficient with his energy. And then he started to gas, and then things started to go really badly for him. And I think there were some obvious adjustments that he should have made that he didn't. One being, he was so focused on just throwing volume that he was throwing spinning stuff, just like spinning elbows, spinning kicks, like things that weren't landing, things that are exhausting techniques to use, and they weren't effective. And then he was shooting tons of takedowns. And so looking at this matchup, you say, okay, Aljo's the wrestler. So if he can get Yan down and dominate him on the ground, that's a good path to victory. But he couldn't. Peter Yan stuffed all of his takedowns, except I think Aljo maybe got him down once, but Yan still just got right back up. So
1 out of 17.
Yeah, so he was exhausting himself. Yan was having way more success with takedowns through trips and stuff.
And I mean, Sterling even tripped himself like 5-6 times.
Right.
And slipping and tripping himself. I don't know what he was doing there for a while, but it was frantic. Very frantic.
Yeah, Aljo needed a coach in his corner who was going to say, hey, look, man, I need you to just dial back this energy about 20%. Just focus on staying on the outside. Just let's do the fundamentals, punches, kicks, double up your jab. Keep it simple.
That was that's what Yan was doing.
Exactly.
Just keeping it composed.
And I don't know if it turns into a straight kickboxing match. I don't know if Sterling can win that way either, because Yan has the better kickboxing background and he's just an assassin. I mean, we saw what he did to Aldo. Aldo, similar thing. Well, even more so, Aldo looked fantastic the first couple rounds of that fight. And then Peter Yan just put it on him. Like he's very good at kind of doing a little bit of a rope-a-dope thing where he just lets other guys gas themselves out against him, and then he just takes them out. So I don't know. I think we haven't seen how Peter Yan is going to get beat so far, and I'd be fascinated to see him against Cejudo. But I also feel like this rematch needs to happen, because nobody's
soon as possible.
Yeah, nobody's going to feel like Sterling is the real champ until he actually beats Yan. and that's no discredit to him. It was just like, that's just not how that fight or any fight should end. So
no. Well.
Yeah. We have now the controversy of the women's 145-pound division as well, because Amanda Nunes executed another opponent. And I saw on MMA Junkie the headline that said, did Amanda Nunes just kill the 145-pound, the featherweight women's division? And I don't know how you can kill something that never existed, because there's never been a women's featherweight division. What do you think about that? Is this the end of the road?
Well, yeah, for me it is, but Dana White refuses to kill it. So he says that it's going to remain, I mean, as long as she wants to defend it. But I'm against who?
Right. Yeah, and there's a serious something between Dana White and Amanda Nunes. He loves her. I mean, he's just like, yeah, we're going to keep this championship title around just basically so we can give Amanda Nunes another way to get paid, which I don't really. And granted, like, she's dominating 135 too, but I'd be much more interested to see something that could be competitive, like Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes 3, something like that, or go scour the planet, like find
some Russian girl out there.
Find some Dagestani lady to come in there, give us a competitive fight.
Are there any Russian girls fighting on the UFC roster?
I have no idea. And I don't know what because sometimes those things are kind of a cultural thing where in some cultures, maybe, women are more encouraged to fight, or, it's seen as more normal. And in other cultures, maybe not as much. So I don't know what it's like in Russia culturally.
That's a shame though. Because, they have all those, what do you call it when you, when you do this with a ball and you're like,
shot put. We call it shot put.
Shot put.
Yeah,
they have those.
Yeah, they're chucking the heavy metal ball. That's true. Yeah,
They are big. They are big as hell.
They are. I don't know.
Put some of those girls in there.
Yeah.
vi pratar om kulstötare ifall att någon inte visste att det heter shotput. Så är det ryska kulstötare. Yeah, little translation there.
Yeah.
the hand.
Perfect. And then the top of the card, obviously main event, what everybody showed up to see was Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya.
Our guy, Jan Blachowicz.
I love both these guys, but and I always had mixed feelings. So part of me doesn't want to see like Israel move up in weight and win a belt that he's never going to defend, right? Like that's always a bit annoying. On the other hand, I love Israel Adesanya. It's like he's always entertaining, whether he's just talking or fighting. So, I wasn't going to be upset if he won that fight, but also it seemed like he underestimated Jan. Like the fact that, one of the fundamental tenets of fighting is just like weight matters. And the fact that he didn't, even get up to like the minimum weight for this fight. And so Jan probably had like 30 plus pounds on him. We've seen it time and again, not even always with title fights. We saw it with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz in the first fight where, Conor didn't think that Nate Diaz's size advantage mattered. But then we saw on the flip side, when Amanda Nunes went to fight Chris Cyborg for the 145-pound title for the first time, she spent like a year and a half where Cyborg was like, come on already, let's do this fight. And Amanda was like, no, I need to legitimately get up to that weight in a way where I am strong. And I need to do it the right way. And sure enough, when she got to that fight, she looked phenomenal. She looked like she belonged there. And then, so this is another example of just like, look, you can't, and Max Holloway too, fighting Dustin Poirier. It's like, you have to actually prepare to fight in that weight class. You can't just say like, I'm the greatest until I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Apparently. People kind of shit on John Jones because he's doing that right now. Am I right? People think that it takes too long. They're like, yawn. It takes forever. The hype is over when you finally reach that size. But I don't think so. I'm happy to wait.
Absolutely. And let's be frank, John Jones takes so much time off anyway. Not necessarily always by choice, but I'm used to him disappearing from time to time for a while.
Not the new John Jones.
The new John Jones. Yeah.
The new one. So exactly. How did you score that Blachowicz Adesanya fight? How many rounds did you have? Jan winning?
I was losing my mind watching this fight because Joe Rogan was so biased, and Cormier was a little bit too. He wasn't as bad as Rogan, but the whole fight, Rogan was like, Jan's just biting on all the feints. Like, he's got to get it together. Like, Adesanya's just dominating him in the striking. And then it's like, you look at the striking stats from the first 2 rounds and the fight as a whole, like, Jan was out striking him like 2-1, like, of strikes landed, significant strikes, 2-1. And like, what fight was Joe Rogan watching while his mouth was moving? It's like,
I know. And why does it matter if he was biting on the feints? I mean, he'd rather bite on the feints than get punched in the mouth.
100%. And the whole point of a feint is to throw off your opponent's timing so that you can then land a good counterpunch. And Adesanya wasn't landing those punches. So his feints, I mean, he is one of the most technical fighters in the UFC. He's great at feinting and getting his opponents to bite on things and then landing. But in this fight, he didn't land. So his feints were pretty useless. They didn't have much practical value. And so it just kind of drove me crazy the whole fight. They're like, yeah, Jan's just biting on all the feints. It's like, yeah, but Izzy isn't actually throwing a real punch or a real kick. So who cares?
I had Jan winning 4 out of 5 rounds.
I did too. Exactly. I had Izzy maybe winning the 3rd round, but 1 and 2, I thought Jan was a lot more active, landed heavier stuff. And the championship rounds, Jan just dominated.
Yeah. So what was your pick here? Because I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
That means it was Adesanya.
I think it might have been, honestly. I thought
we have to go back and listen to that, or you can do it since I'm not listening to the podcast.
I thought that Adesanya would, when he was, I thought he'd be able to get Jan to bite on his feints, and I thought he'd be able to land. I thought that his speed and his timing would be so superior to Jan's that he could win. And Jan talked about implementing his wrestling, but I really slept on Jan's wrestling. I didn't realize how good he was in that aspect of the game, and he really showed in this fight. So hats off to him. I mean, he's a really, really well-rounded champion.
We're kind of biased too now, since we have a crush on him. We have a huge Blachowicz crush.
I have a crush on any man who strips down to his underwear and gets in a freezing river. That's what can I say? It's kind of my fetish.
We have a crush on the new touch rope Blachowicz.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
so
Bravo eller honest for Jan. I have to ask. I have to ask you one thing. After the fight, his reaction was a little similar to Usman after he won his last title fight, where he's just like, "Now you have to."
I saw it coming.
Now you have to respect me as champ. Basically,
but he wasn't playing all that tough. He wasn't doing it in the same manner as Usman did, right? And he did a bit less of it. Yeah. He wasn't like trying to put on that all gangster stuff.
Yeah.
So bra. This one is bra.
Yeah.
So to finish off the UFC 259, I just have to ask, who was your lock of the night? Since we are keeping scores, right?
My lock of the night was Islam Makhachev.
Yeah.
And
so now we are. Before this, were we 4-1 or 3-1?
We were 3-1 because last week you had a push. You had Cowboy Oliveira, who didn't end up fighting. So now it's
we're
3-2. Who is your lock of the night?
Alexander Rakic.
Okay, so you got 4 now. So 4-2.
4-2.
Yeah.
You're closing in.
Watch out. I got a win streak going. I'm hot.
Closing in. Are we going to do the Bra eller honest now? Or where are we?
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's where we are, but I don't think I have anything.
Yeah, but you know what? My Bra eller honest was, we already handled that business too, because my Bra eller honest for you was Bra eller honest, the commentary on UFC 259. You can say it just for the record.
Honest. There we go. Especially the main event fight. The rest of it wasn't quite as bad, but for the main event, it was bad.
I thought we'd never say that the commentary is honest.
Yeah, no, I love DC, love Rogan, love Anik. I just felt it was kind of a little ridiculously one-sided for some of those fights, especially the Adesanya fight. And, you know, that just, yeah, it was hard to listen to. I wanted to turn it off.
Bad night for him.
But that brings up, which former fighter is your favorite MMA commentator? Because I made a little list of my favorites.
Oh, God. Michael Bisping, for sure.
Okay, I can see that. I've got Bisping as my number 2 right now. I've got DC just ahead of him, but it could really go either way. I think what gives DC the edge for me is like they're both really good at like technically describing what's happening in the fight.
Yeah.
Of course. DC just gets so excited though. Like I appreciate how he's just sort of like a kid watching the fight though. Like I think his excitement puts it over the top for me. The thing about Bisping though, I mean, he's got the British accent. He's got the attitude, but he is also so good at predicting what's going to happen in the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many fights where he's just like, yeah, coming into the fight, like the Cyril Gahn versus
Rosenstrike.
Oh, sorry, not that one. Derek Lewis versus getting all my heavyweights mixed up. Who did Derek Lewis just knock out?
Yeah, he did knock out Curtis Blades.
Curtis Blades, yeah.
That took some brain activity.
Why was that so hard? Yeah, so at the beginning of that fight, Bisping was just like, yeah, he's got to watch, Blades has to watch out on his takedowns. Like he leaves himself exposed. And that's how the fight ended. He left himself exposed and he got knocked out. So, and I've seen him do that in so many fights. So yeah, I feel like for me, it's like DC is like 1A and Bisping is 1B. I mean, I think Felder's really good too. Dan Hardy, unfortunately, it seems like we're not going to see him anymore, but he was great, especially great with his pre-fight analysis.
Yeah.
I really like Cruz too, but he's still like a distant, probably 3rd or 4th for me, but he's a great analyst too. He just doesn't have the same, he's not as fun as Bisping and DC, I guess.
Agree.
Yeah. Is there any female fighters who you could see being a good commentator, like past or present?
Oh. Well, I would say Valentina Shevchenko, although I am not in love with her accent.
No. What is her accent?
Russian.
Is it?
Or Ukrainian? Is she Russian or is she Ukrainian?
I think she's Ukrainian.
Never mind. It's a Russian accent.
She's very much.
Although I know that the Swedish accent, the Swinglish, which I'm talking right now, is horrible, terrible. All the what do you call it? Men vad fan, vad heter det? Adjectives? No, adjectives.
Adjectives. Yeah. Descriptive words.
Yes, adjective in Swedish. All the adjectives that I can come up with for Swedish English is bad, very bad. But so I wouldn't want to hear myself either. But I don't know. I don't know, really.
I would listen to Valentina. She's super technical, obviously, and I feel like she could break things down. She's such a citizen of the world, too. I think she has an interesting perspective because she's got a lot of history in Europe, in the U.S., in South America. Like she's kind of been everywhere. She's very multicultural.
I'll have to say Michelle Watterson. Yep.
Oh, I can see that.
Yes, off the top of my head.
Everybody loves the karate hottie, so I could definitely see that. I was kind of disappointed. She was on Joe Rogan's podcast once, and Joe just kind of talked over her the whole time. So I was just kind of like, hey, I want to hear Michelle Watterson talk. That's why she's on the show. Like you're on your show talking every time.
Yes.
I would personally like to see Misha Cupcake Tate take a turn at the commentating desk. Back in the day, towards the end of her career, she did a little, I don't know if it was commentating or just sort of post-fight analysis, and I thought she was quite good. So I could see her doing it as well.
Should we jump ahead to this weekend, Edwards versus Muhammad?
Suppose we have to talk about this upcoming card and our nopest nicknames, because there are a few on this one.
There are a few.
Yeah. Do you have a nopest nickname for this upcoming card?
I had, actually. It's Ashley Spider Monkey Yoder.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. That's a good bad one.
Mm.
You don't like spider monkeys?
Nah.
Or you just don't think
Do you?
a fighter should call them? They're really entertaining when you see them at the zoo. Like they're super active. They're just like, they're flying around everywhere.
But they don't
They're
have any business inside an octagon, right?
probably not, I mean, but the spider monkey is probably the closest thing to a kung fu monkey. So,
But I don't like the kung fu monkey either.
okay, I know.
That's you.
It's true. It's not the nopest for me, though. The nopest for me is Eric, your boy, Anders.
Yeah. Yeah, God. I forgot about him.
I don't think I have to explain that. I don't have to explain that.
I'll change mine. Your boy is number one, and then number two, Spider Monkey.
It's the nopest. And
you're supposed, like we talked to about with Anthony Smith, your nickname is supposed to be given, right?
Exactly.
Who gave him that? He should be in jail.
Lock him up.
Yeah, they were like, I'll come up with a great nickname for you. And he was like, yeah, let's hear it. And they're like, your boy.
Your boy.
Here comes the police.
Eric Anders, you are now in nickname jail, along with Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad, who is one of our all-time nopest. But we got to give him credit here because he had a great opportunity in this fight with Leon Edwards, and he took it, and we're excited about it because Leon Edwards has been trying to get a fight for 2 years, and nobody wants to fight him. And even when matchups are made, they fall apart. Like Tyron Woodley getting injured, and who knows? I mean, it's just like it's been like the Tony Ferguson versus Khabib fight falling apart 5 times, except just the same fighter, just his fights fall apart against everybody. It's not just like one matchup that's cursed. Every matchup for him is cursed.
Yeah.
And so now, though, I am very optimistic that this Bilal Muhammad fight is going to happen. And how do you see that playing out?
Well, I mean, Edwards hasn't fought in almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
His last fight was actually a decision win over Rafael dos Anjos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think all of his fights, like all of his last, 5-6 fights has gone to a decision. So he almost have only decision wins for the last few years. Edwards is. So I don't know. Bilal Muhammad has won 4 straight. Fought 3 times since Leon Edwards' last fight. I don't know if inactivity will be a factor here. I think so, actually. I think that Leon Edwards is rusty.
Yeah, so it sounds like, as you're describing it, maybe a bit of a contrast in styles. I mean, we know that Leon Edwards has great wrestling. We know he also has very clean stand-up, but maybe a little bit more of a point fighter, whereas Bilal Muhammad comes in there very kill or be killed. Super aggressive, always looks like he's trying to prove something.
Yes.
Trying to get you to remember the name.
Yes.
For God's sake, would you please remember it? And so it's going to be interesting to see whose game plan wins out. Is Leon Edwards able to sort of control the fury that is Bilal Muhammad, or can Bilal Muhammad just overwhelm him with his strikes? I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, what's your pick?
This is always a head versus heart question. My head says Leon Edwards. My heart says Bilal Muhammad, because that's the kind of fight I want it to be. I want to see a slugfest. I want to see Muhammad, get Edwards to get in there and engage in a dirty fight. So I'm going to pick, this is not my lock of the night, but I'm going to say Bilal Muhammad by, is this a 3 or a 5 round fight? Doesn't matter. I'm going to say 3rd round TKO.
All right. And I'll say Bilal Muhammad by decision.
Boom.
You wanna go into Misha Serkinov, or are we wrapping this up with the lock of the night?
What would you like to say about your boy Misha? Because you love the Russians.
I know, I do. His last fight was a win over Jimmy Crute by submission. It was a long time ago, though, 1.5 years ago since he fought last.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because all of his 5 wins since 2016 has come by submission.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's so inconsistent, though. He's got win, loss, win. So I don't know. I'm picking Ryan Spann by TKO round 2.
I like that pick. I do think there's a lot of potential for this to be a slugfest, but I'll go Serkinov. Ooh, we got a little bit of thunder here, and it's hailing. Wow, it's kind of amazing. Yeah, we got to wrap this up because I got to go and enjoy this storm. But I'm going to say Misha Serkinov by second round TKO. And
TKO?
Yeah, that's right. And
did you hear what I said about his wins since 2016?
Yes, but
just making sure.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
You know me.
So lock of the night.
Yeah.
Go crazy. Do something crazy.
It is crazy because honestly, I don't look at this card and feel like there's an obvious. I mean, in a lot of circumstances, Leon Edwards is a pretty safe pick, but I think 2 years off, hard to say where he's going to be at. And the prelims, honestly, there's a lot of people I don't recognize in the prelims. And the Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder fight is a toss-up to me. So I ended up picking as my lock of the night, Dan Ige over Gavin, the governor, Tucker.
Yeah, the governor. God.
Yeah. So
kind of risky though. Very risky.
It is risky. Tucker's 13-1. He's got heavy hands. I'm banking on Ige's veteran experience. He's had a lot of quality wins. He's been a little more active. So I'm counting on that experience to carry him through against the governor. Dan Ige, don't fuck up my win streak. Win this fight.
So I have to 4-2. No, my lock of the night is actually Angela Hill.
Oh, boom. There you go.
Kind of striker versus grappler, but Yoder holds a striking accuracy of 35%. She's going to try to take Angela Hill down, I think. But no. Angela Hill is going to persevere.
It's a good argument. I like it. And we'll see who prevails. Hopefully next week I will be up 3-0 against you.
3-0. So are you just going to we're 4-2 now.
Yeah. No, but we're not counting. We're just counting win streak, right? We're not counting like overall. I can't keep track.
So you're just going to become undefeated?
Yeah, I'm going to be undefeated after Yoder beats Hill.
Okay. Yeah, very strange way of keeping score, but all right. I'm just the listeners all know that I'm the better one at picking.
I'm American, so this is what I do. I rename things, I redefine things. Also, you can't
make up the rules.
You can't really argue because you don't listen to the podcast, so you have no idea who you picked in the past.
And I never remember. I never remember who you picked. So I always have to ask. And you could just lie. It'd be like always picking the winner's side. So, yeah, that's great though.
Yep, I'm looking forward to surging ahead in our competition and looking forward to these fights. Not as many big names, but this is the great thing about the fight business. You never know. Could be some fights of the year in this card. Hope you all enjoyed our interview with Anthony Smith, and we'll see you next time.
Check out our Instagram, Heavy Leather Podcast.